Morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding the portion of Bereshis. We're holding Bereshis. We're holding today is the sixth reading. We're holding on chapter 4, verse number 23. Ayema Lemech and Noshav and Lemech told his wives, Ada v'tzila, Shema Koili, listen to my voice. Nishay Lemech, the wives of Lemech. Azina Imrasi, hear my words. Ki ish harakti lefitzi, because did I kill a man by my wound? Vayela lechabirasi, and a child by my bruise. Did I kill them? Meaning that I killed him intentionally. Now she says, he said this because his wife had separated from him from a marital relationship, because he had killed Cain and his own son Tuval Cain, because he had killed his own Tuval Cain. For Lemech was blind, and Tuval Cain was once leading him. When he saw Tuval Cain, when Tuval Cain saw Cain, he thought it was an animal. He told his father to draw his bow, and Lemech killed him, because it was the seventh generation. When Lemech realized that it was Cain, his forefather, he clasped his hand together, striking his son between them, and he killed him. So one day he killed my great-grandfather, and he killed his son. As a result, his wife separated from him. He tried to appease them, saying, hear my voice. I want to have a relationship for the man who I killed was killed by my wound. Did I wound him intentionally, that the wound be attributed to me? And the child who I killed was killed by my bruise. Therefore, this is a question. Did I act inadvertently and without premeditation? This is not to consider my wound, nor is it considered my bruise. Shema Kreli, my wound. Shema Ankoli is a stroke inflicted by the word or an arrow. Shvasayim Yukum Kain, Lemach Shivim Veshiva. If it's a revenge against Cain, who committed murder, was exacted only after 7 generations. And for me, Lemach, who only committed manslaughter, God's punishment should surely be postponed many times, 7 generations. My mistake should be more than even Cain's. As she says, if Cain, who killed intentionally, had his punishment suspended for 7 generations, I, who killed inadvertently, should be certainly have my punishment suspended for many times 7 generations. Shivim v'shiva, 77. He used the term denoting many times 7, without meaning exactly 77. This is how Rabbi Mechuma explains this passage. But the Medrash Rabbah explains that Lemech did not kill anyone, that his wife separated from him after they had fulfilled the commandment of childbearing, because they realized that it had been decreed that to destroy Cain's offsprings after 7 generations. And they said, why should we have children? Because ultimately that's what happened, the flood. All of Cain's children died. Every person who came from Cain was not in the world, more in the world. So, because everything came out of Noach, which came out of Shes. So, so that's what what's happening over here. Not that he killed anybody. They basically said, why we're having children? Soon the flood will come and sweep everybody away. He answered them, did I kill a man by my wound? Did I kill Abel, who's a man in size but a child in age, and my offspring should be destroyed for that sin? If Cain, who committed murder, had his punishment suspended for 7 generations, I, who did not kill, should certainly have my punishment, destruction of my offspring, suspended for many times 7 generations. But this is an absurd application, and it's reason. If it were so, the Holy One, blessed be He, would never exacted did that to fulfill His promise. So Therefore, it's hard to explain the verse up according to the Medrash, and therefore Rashi picks the first Abtam Chuma to explain the verse according to him. Verse 25, Adam Eid Ishtay. And then Adam Harishan got together with his wife again after 130 years. Vateled Ben, and he had a son, Vatikish by Shais, and he called him Shais. Kishas li Elikim Zera Achar Tachas Hevel, because the Eibishter gave me another child after Hevel, Kiharga Kayin, because Kayin killed him. Rashi says, Lemach came to Adam, the first man. Adam was still alive, and he complained about his wives. Adam said to them, is it you to make calculation concerning God's decree? What are you getting involved? But it's your duty, and he will do his. You got to do. You're married. You have to have a relationship with your husband, and let David do what he's got to do. You answered him, you're giving us Musar. First, correct yourself. Have you not separated yourself from your wife for 130 years? You're giving us Musar. You're giving us rebuke when you separated from Chava for the last 130 years. So go first, fix yourself, and then talk to us. And even though through you death was decreed, his response was immediate. He said, "You're 100% right." And he went back, and they got married again. Adam knew his wife again. And the word oid again signifies, it comes to teach us that his desire for her now was greater than before. This is all the Bereshis Rabbah again. Look at the Medrash. So Adam Rishon, if the Kain killed Hevel, Adam Rishon disappeared for 130 years. And then there was no therapy those days, so he took him 130 years for the women of Cain, the women of Lemech's wives should give him a little musa. The Sheis Gam Hu Yalad Ben, and Sheis had a son, Vayikash May Enish, and they called him Enish. Oz Hucha Likre B'Shem Hashem, and the name of God was invoked profanely. Now she says, Oz Huchal, an expression of chulit. That's why he translated profanely. Oz Huchal comes from a choil. This was done by calling people and idols by the name of the Holy One, blessed be He, in order to make them the object of idol worship, to call them deities. Only chapter 5, verse 1. Zeh Sefer Teildos Adam. This is the following the record of the descendants of man. The Adam, the day that God created man, b'dmus Elokim, and they created in the image of God. Also, He created them. Now she says this is the record of the descendants of Adam. Also, many Haggadic explanations to this verse. So they say you should get. Today they have the Medrash says, they have the Medrash Shabbat in English. Beautiful Midrashim on all these verses. The Yom Barada, this tells us that the day he was created, he had children. That Adam and Chava were created on Friday, and they were married on Friday, and they had relations on Friday, and they had 2 children on Friday. It was a very busy day. You can look it up in the Medrash. Zachav and Akeva bottom, he both created them, male and female. He blessed them. Adam, and he called his name Adam, bottom in the day that they were created. He Adam, and Adam was Shleishum Adam at 130 years. He then had another child, and that he created in his Tzelem Elikim. And he called him Sheis. She says, until then he separated. So from the first day of creation, he had a relationship with his wife, and he had 2 children on the first day of creation. From that day, he separated his wife until 130 years later. Don't worry, he lived 930 years. So it was a long life. So after 130 years, he remarried to his wife Chava, and they had a son called Sheis. And then Adam lived after Sheis another 800 years. And he had sons and daughters. Doesn't say how many. I think there's a Medrash, he had like 75 children. and sons and boys and girls, and he had a big family. He called me Adam, and Adam and Isha lived Chai Teisha Meir Shana Shleshim Shana. Adam lived 930 years. Yamas, and he died. He Sheish Chamesh Shana Ma'ashana, and Sheish lived 105 years. Vayelis Enish, and after he got married, and he had Enish. He Sheish Acharelis Enish Sheva Shanim Rishmein Ma'ashana, and then Sheish lived another 807 years. And during that time, Vayelib Banim Abanis, and he had children, boys and girls. Sheish, and Sheish lived Shtayim Esri Shana Chamer Shana. He lived 912 years. Kanai Nahara. Vayamas, and he died. Vayichi Enosh, and then Enosh lived Tishim Shana. He was a bachelor for 90 years. Vayelid, and he got married, and he had Canaan. And after he had Enosh, he lived for another 815 years. And he had many other children. Verse 11, and Enosh lived a total of he lived 905 years, and he died. And then Canaan lived Shivim Shana for 70 years. And he had Mahalalel. And Canaan lived on 804. He lived 840 years. And many other children. You make Canaan, and Canaan lived entirely. His life was Asa Shana Shamer Shana. He lived 910 years, and he died. And then Mahalala lived Chamish Shana v'Shishim Shana. Mahalala was his bachelor for 65 years. Vayelis Yered, and then he got married and he had Yered. Vayechi Mahalala, and then Mahalala lived Acheres Yered. If he had Yered, Shleshim Shana Shmeinim Shana, 830 years. Vayelid Banim and Banis, and he had many boys and girls. Vayiko Yemeya Mahalala, and Mahalala, his life was Tishim Shana Shmeinim Shana, 895 years. Yamas, he died. And then Yered, the son, lived Shishim Shana, 162 years. And he had a son called Chanoich. And Yered lived after he had Chanoich, Shmeina Meyashan, another 800 years. He had many children. And yet his life was Shtayim v'Shishim Shana Chamei Shana. He lived 962 years. Vayamas, and he died. Chanoich lived Chamish v'Shishim Shana. Chanoich lived 65 years. Vayeles Meshushalach, and he had a young boy. He had a kid called Meshushalach. And the Chanoich walked with God. Achaheles Meshushalach. He was still righteous even after he had a son, Meshuselach. Shalish Meir Shana, he lived another 300 years. Ayela Banabunus, he had many children. Verse 23, and all the days of Chanoich was Chamesh V'Shishim Shana Shleish Meir. He went down. He only lived 365 years. Now she will say why. Verse 24. And Chanoich walked with the Eibush. And suddenly he died young. He's not around anymore. He because God took him at a young age, at 365. Now she says, Chanoich was a righteous man, but he was able to be easily influenced, to turn to evil ways. So the Holy One, blessed be, hurried and took him away. And he made him die before his ordained time. Everybody was living to 900 years. So he died young. This is why the Torah uses a different expression when referring to his death. By writing, he no longer lived. It doesn't say he died. It doesn't say by Chanoich he died. That's tzaddik. Don't say death by a tzaddik. He's gone on. It's a Yom Hilula. It's not a day of passing. It's called a day of going up. So that's the difference. Expression referred to death, writing he no longer in the world to complete his number. He's no longer here. Where is he? He's not here. Is he dead? Can't say death on a tzaddik. He because God took him before his time. A similar use of the taker we find. I'm about to take away from you the apple of your eye with a sudden passing and death. That's the beautiful Chumash of today. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, we are holding now. We're going to the Tanya of the day. We are going to the 25th letter of the Alter Rebbe. It's a famous letter that the Alter Rebbe wrote in explaining a concept in the letter of the Baal Shem Tov, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. Lahavim inebina, to comprehend the words of understanding, to comprehend the words of Torah. It's a famous book you can buy today. It's called Tzivoi Sarevash, which is called, meaning the testament, Sava, of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov didn't write anything. Everything was written by, so it was called the testament that Sava, like a father leaves over a will and testament. Hagam Shebein is Ein Sava Seklal. The fact is, it's not his testament because he never, Baal Shem Tov never told anybody to write anything, and he never demanded that his things should be written. He never asked anybody to write things for him. Never wrote himself. Whatever. Akim Lekutim. So really, even the name of the book, the Alter Rebbe says, is really not a true name. It could be the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. But they called it forever reading the testament of the Baal Shem Tov, like in a way, like the Baal Shem Tov sat down with a student and told him his last will and testament. That's not a true statement. So the Alter Rebbe says, even though the name of the book until today is called Tzivos HaGruash, it's not really his testament. They are the teaching, merely gelining. It's pure. This is what the students put together. Objective pure recalls the phrase of the morning blessing, Tahirahi. It describes the extreme purity of the soul before it descends from the world of Atzilus. Like it says, Ke'etzem hatoya hashmayim l'toya, like the pure of the heavens. So the Baal Shem Tov's words are like pristine. It's like the words that come from heaven. Shaliktu l'kutei basa l'kutei, which they gather compilations of compilations, which is students put together this statements about teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. Again, there's no official. That's the only book officially that you find throughout the teachings of many tzaddikim after the Baal Shem Tov. All the students said things in his name, but there's no official book that the Baal Shem Tov demanded to be written or to be said or to be written down. Baal Shem Tov didn't do that. Didn't say. We find throughout history some great tzaddikim wrote their own. Some tzaddikim had other people say it, write it for them. Like the Arizal also didn't write anything; it was all written in his name. And so to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov never wrote anything down, never demanded anybody to write his teachings down. They wrote it down. And therefore, when you write something down, what somebody else said about the Alter Rebbe says, not every time. Because as Alter Rebbe said, the Baal Shem Tov talked in Yiddish, so they translated it into Hebrew. When you take a word, a Yiddish word, you translate it to Hebrew. You go the other way around, or English, whatever. It's very hard to give an exact word for what he said, and therefore, it's not sometimes. I just see what the Alter Rebbe is talking about. They took a word from the Baal Shem Tov. As always, when people want to. This was a whole thing. Those who went against the Baal Shem Tov took one of the words of the Baal Shem Tov and they made a whole thing about it. What the Baal Shem Tov said, is it right? Is it wrong? The Alter Rebbe said, you're taking one word and you're making a whole big deal. But the truth is, that one word which is written in this book is not really a correct, true translation of what the Baal Shem Tov said, because it's a translation of a Yiddish word. And they did not phrase his teaching exactly. As the Baal Shem Tov is speaking Yiddish, and the teaching of Tzavash or Ravash was written in Hebrew. So the Baal Shem Tov taught his spoken Yiddish, and they translated, somebody, whoever it was, translated his word from the Hebrew, from English to Hebrew. Connotation, however, of the teaching is absolutely true. And you have to understand behind the word what the Baal Shem Tov wanted to say. Don't get stuck on the word, because you can don't make a whole big deal about a word. After that, begins to explain the statement of the Tzoros of Ravash in section 120. But after that, it gives a Hagdom. And this we understood by considering, before I go to the Tzoros of Ravash itself, what the Baal Shem Tov was said in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, we'll go first to explain another concept in Torah. The Gemara says, Kol HaKois, whoever gets angry, whoever gets angry is like worshiping idols. Now, that's a very harsh statement. It's a very harsh statement, because there are laws of Avodah Zarah. There are laws in halacha what is considered idol worship. Can't just everybody say, like people say, oh, they're worshiping money. That's not idol worship. Idol worship in halacha is not worshiping money. So it's a nice statement, but it's not a true statement. But there is a concept. We take the concept of idol worship and we use it out. So when the Chacham said anger is idol worship, they didn't mean that, okay, somebody gets angry, you should give him the punishment of the Torah. The Torah says a person's idol worship, you put him to death. Maybe every person gets angry, you put him to death. Self-understood, that's not what the Gemara meant. You don't take a person that gets angry, being to best, and then you're going to put him to death because he got angry. But you said that the anger is idol worship. It's a statement. Don't go and make a whole law on a statement of the Gemara. You have to understand what the Gemara meant. It's the mechuven. The Gemara wanted to express the most negative thing in life is idol worship, and the most negative thing in a person's life is anger. There's no comparison between anger and idol worship. Why? So what's the comparison? So if you're a smart person, you understand why the Gemara wanted to put these two things together, even though they're not the same law. But there's something, a similarity between idol worship and anger. What's the similarity? Because when a person gets angry, that moment he lost faith in God. So that's the point. Idol worships, you worship another idol, you'll totally lose faith in God. When a person gets angry, at that moment that he got angry at somebody else, why did he get angry? Because he lost the moon in the Eibishter. Because a person that has a munah, so then he believes that everything comes from God. So therefore, that another person could have said something or heard him, it's from the Eibishter. You're right. That person became a shliach of God, but he's from God. If the Eibishter didn't want, it wouldn't have happened. So everything comes from God. He would not get angry. But the question is, the one who's cursing him is a regular, another person. I can tell something comes from God. Somebody's hit by lightning. This is a guy's bothering him. Another person. And that person has free choice. Or that person's hitting him. So why are you blaming it on God? Or causing him damage in his money. And according to Jewish law, somebody hits me, somebody steals from me, I can take him to court. And not only is he punished by court, the court can say, you owe me money. You hurt him, not pay damages. What you hurt me? So what are you talking about? God, I can take him to court. If it's God, why am I taking him to court? And that person's going to have to pay me. And not only that, but he's going to have to, B'din Shamayim, went against God, because he chose the wrong thing. So it's human free choice. What do you blame? Why am I saying that I lost my emunah? I'm getting angry at this person that hurt me. I'm not getting angry at God. I'm getting this person's hurting me. Why is he choosing to hurt me? And the proof is that I can take him to court, and I can get compensation for his damages that he did to me. So I'm not blaming God. I'm blaming him. So the one who did the action for the part cannot plead innocent. I'm the messenger of God. Go, let God pay you. I'm doing his doing. You're saying you believe in God. You have faith in God. Go to God. Let him pay you. He did it. That's what a person is to think, that everything's from God, and therefore it's not you that hurt me, but God hurt me. I'm merely instrument in the hands of divine providence. Afal became. That's not true. A guy who has a munah knows that he chose the. Why does he pay me? Because he chose to be a messenger. He should never chose to be the messenger. A person who has a munah ultimately understands that when I was damaged, it was already a gzeira min hashamayim that I had to be damaged. That Yankel decided to be the messenger. That's why he didn't have to choose to be the messenger. But the gzeira was before already. The gzeira was before. Didn't we come to us now for Rosh Hashanah? Me yichye, me yamas, me, who's going to be rich, who's going to be poor, who's going to be humbled, who's going to be exalted. Everything is already preordained. Everything has been a gzeira min hashamayim. And there are many agents. It could be Yankel, it could be Shmerel, it could be a Malach, it could be a lightning. It could be a sickness. There's many shluchim. So hence, even if the offending party had chosen otherwise, the incident would have befallen the victim in any case. Whether it was Yankel or somebody else, or who knows what. I was walking in the street and I tripped. This discussion recalls the teaching of the Mechilta cited by Rashi on the verse "V'lekim ina layodei," and God causes it to happen to him. For in such a case, the Mechilta applies the verse, "From evildoers there emerges evil." This means that though it was decreed from above that someone should sustain an injury, God brings it about that a particular person should inflict somebody else. A tzaddik doesn't hurt somebody else. That I can hurt somebody else, that shows that my own bechira, that what kind of person I am. And maybe that's that maybe I should start fixing myself, that I can hurt somebody else, steal from somebody else, embarrass somebody else, etc. The concept, however, speaks of an unwitting injury. In the case of potential willful offender, if instead of choosing freely to act in an evil manner, he chooses to do otherwise, the event would still have occurred. For God has many agents. So there's two concepts. You have a concept of a person that does it unwittingly. And God, why would a person unwillingly do an act? He has to look at himself. A righteous man would nothing unwillingly would come to him. So that it came to you, you have to look into yourself. And to those that choose to do evil, that's the statement, there are many messengers to God. There are many messengers. At any rate, it is thus clear that the victim has no cause to be angry at the offender, for the true cause of the offense is not him, but a heavenly decree. Deep concept. Alter Rebbe now takes this one step further. Not only does the heavenly decree give the offender an undefined potential to do harm, but moreover, a particular thought to do it, and the power to do it, all comes from God. At the same time, since man has freedom of choice, he can, of course, choose to reject such a thought and refrain from doing the deed. That's why nobody can say, oh, but God gave it to me. God still gave me free choice. And I could say no. I could do tshuva and not be that messenger. Anger thus remains unjustifiable. For the offended party is not angry that the other party made an evil choice. What angers him is damage done to him. I'm such a holy guy. I'm such a special guy. How is it possible that such a special guy like me is being hurt? His anger thus results in the lack of belief that the true cause for his mishap is not a particular individual's evil choice, but a heavenly decree. Not only this, that the heavenly decree gave permission in principle and made it possible to suffer the injury at the very moment the guy is cursing you, Shemakeyu, or the guy is hitting you. At this moment that the guy is hitting me or is cursing me, the slavish boy in this guy is clothed in him. Koyach Hashem, the strength of God. How can he punch me without the strength of God? V'ruach piv, in the spirit of his mouth. He's what Hamachayeyu, gives this guy life, Umakaimoy, and it gives him, sustains him. The Alter Rebbe brings the famous story of David HaMelech, Shimi ben Geda, that he was walking in the street. Shimi ben Geda cursed him. And Yoav ben Tzruya said, let me go take care of this guy. And David HaMelech said, no. Because it's not Shimi who is cursing me. It's the Eibishter is cursing me. It's not Shimi. It's God who's cursing me. So don't hurt the messenger. God is going to for God told him to curse me. So why you can go take care of him? It's God. God is giving me a message. God's telling me I'm not so good. God has cursed me. And the question is, David HaMelech says, what is David HaMelech? He became a prophet. Suddenly that he says, God, how does he know that? How did David HaMelech know that God told Shimi to curse him? David HaMelech understood. David HaMelech had a munah, and he understood that it was God. That it was God. God gave Shimi the machshava, that Shimi, it came to his mind. He suddenly saw David HaMelech walking down the street, and it came to his mind, I'm going to go curse him. Which was stupid. Ultimately, it got him, but it was stupid for him to do. He became the messenger of evil. He became in his free choice. He decided that he was going to go and curse David HaMelech, which was a stupid act ultimately. But David HaMelech at that moment realized and said, now who gives Shimi the machshava, the curse? Who gives Shimi everything? Which they gave him. The thought that occurred in Shimi's heart and his mind to curse David at that moment was the Eibishter gave him the thought. He didn't overcome the thought. The Eibishter gave him the thought. Now he didn't overcome it and he cursed it. He used the thought. Who was thus responsible for such a thought entering Shimi's mind? In the breath of man, which animates the host of heaven. Animated the spirit of Shimi at that moment when he was cursing David. The proof is, because if the breath of God would depart from Shimi for a second, he wouldn't be able to speak. The Eibishter didn't make Shimi disappear. The Eibishter God didn't make Shimi stop talking. And this is the meaning. And this is what David HaMelech meant. The Eibishter told him. God told him. Be'esahi mamish. It's like God told him right now. He made Shimi the prophet, in a way. He said, the Abishah told him right now, Shimi. Shimi is talking in the words of God. Kilal is David, cursed David. So God did not provide Shimi at the time with life and power of speech. Umi yoimalai. And who said this to him? Why did he do so? In the glass, which apparently the standard edition of Tanya, the Rebbe notes that the word loy seems unnecessary. I'm a loy. So much of the above quoted verse simply states, without an addition, then who shall say, why did it say, why did you do so? Suggested that the Rebbe notes that these words may seem superfluous rather than stating outright that they are, because at this point the Alter Rebbe actually referring to another verse. The word of the king rules, and who shall say to him, what are you doing? However, rather than adopt the labeling assumption, the Rebbe suddenly changes the direction and interplays one word with the other. It appears more reasonable to say that the word to him, not intended as a quotation, as some commentators hold at the conclusion of the verse, and and who shall say to him, first to Shimi. The Rebbe makes it clear that the fact speaks of God, meaning having first related that God told Shimi what to do. The verse ends by asking who can possibly say to him, why did he do so? That's the Eibishter wanted. He could have himself said, I don't want to say these words. This is a beautiful letter of the Alter Rebbe, but Mitch, you're going to finish it tomorrow by yourself. Very powerful letter of the Alter Rebbe. The concept of Emunas Hashem. That even when something negative happens to me, I have to believe that the Eibishter can't get angry. I got to have Emunas Hashem. I have to have faith in God. Today is the 25th day of the month, my dear friends. It's half of the chapter of 119 of Tehillim. First half of Kuf Yotes, 119, from the letter Aleph to the letter Mem. If you do that, you do the Chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes, on the 25th day of Tishrei, 10 melodies, some only singular stanzas, are attributed to the Alter Rebbe, having been composed by him. We sing a lot of them like every Shabbos kid. We sing Hulakenu, Hulakenu is the Rebbe's niggun, I'm sorry. We just sang all these days, and it's a song of the Alter Rebbe. So there was like Eliata is only one stanza. That's it. The Alter Rebbe made a niggun that, or Avinu Malkeinu. The Alter Rebbe made a song to Avinu Malkeinu, which we sang on Yom Kippur, on the 10 days of Tshuva. Those attributed to the Mittler Rebbe were composed in his time and sung in his presence, but he did not compose them. He had the Mittler Rebbe had a group of singers that they sang for him, and they composed songs for him. He had a group of musical gifted young men known as the Mittler Rebbe's Kapelya. Kapellas, they used to sing without music, so Kapelya, they used to sing together songs. So the Mittler Rebbe had a group of people that they were divided into two groups: vocalists, Bali Shir, and musicians who played. Oh, I'm sorry. There were musicians who played various instruments, Bali Zimra. So it was a group of. That's why you find like some Chassidim, they play the Rebbes, they play musical instruments also. They don't only sing the gunim. All Rebbes, Avich, regular other Chassidish Rebbes, they're Bala Nagina. Nagina was an important thing. Part of Chassidus was the concept of Nagina, song. And there were melodies most melodies that Chassidim and the Rebbes would compile was without any words. They were just Naginas, the songs without words. Some were with words, mainly without words. And some of them, so the Mittler Rebbe's Kapelya, I'm sorry, I said before, they didn't have instruments. The Mittler Rebbe had a group of Chassidim that that made beautiful nigunim. The Mittelrebbe's Kapelle is a famous niggun of the Mittelrebbe, and they used to sing for him, and they used to play for him these nigunim. As we know that a niggin it cleans the heart. The Alter Rebbe says a niggin, a chassidish niggin, cleans out the heart if you sing a chassidish niggin. And that's the Yom for today, my dear friends. So, in Mitch Hashem, I hope everybody learns Chitas tomorrow. And in Mitch Hashem, we'll see you on Sunday. We'll start Parshas Noach.
Rabbi,